agree. We did delay the meeting this month because of Valentine's Day. We had to make sure that all of our spouses were taken care of in a proper manner. Thank you for coming this evening. Thank you for attending. And I will do roll call. Albert Knott.
Present.
David Harwood.
Here.
Louis Piggott.
Here.
Doug Matheson.
Here.
Pete Greeny.
Here.
All right. If you would, please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, council, do I have a motion to approve minutes from January 9th, 2023?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? Okay, Albert. How do you vote?
Yea.
Yay? Okay.
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Doug? Aye. Pete?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve minutes January 30th, 31st, and February 1st from the council retreat?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Albert? David?
Yes.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? Aye. And Pete?
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving right along, a regular agenda adoption. Council, I would ask that, David, would you make a motion to add to the agenda? Needs to go under consent portion of the agenda, increase in legal services.
Yes, I would like to do that.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. And we'll go ahead and do a vote on the consent agenda. That's tax release 2022-07, tax refunds 2022-02, budget amendment. And we have a future council member out there. And of course, the addition of the increased legal services fee. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Albert? David?
Yes.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? Aye. And Pete?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda is approved. All right, now we're down to the public comments. If there's somebody in the audience that would like to speak for up to 3 minutes, you may give your name to Ms. Hillary. Okay, we did have one that came through from Ms. Lowry. She could not make it this evening, but she asked that this be read. And it says, concerns I am hearing frequently, some residents own rentals on Main Street above shops, and this is on paid parking. Main Street above shops that do not have designated parking. Where and how would these renters park? It seems unfair to ask them to pay 24-hour per day parking and would impact the ability of the owners to rent these properties. Would locals get free parking? And how would that work? Locals' taxes have increased in some cases as much as 30%. Paying for parking is just another way to tax those of us who already pay for a majority of the town budget. What about folks who work in the shops? Many are college students and they could not easily pay for parking based on their earnings. Many people are saying paid parking will ruin the welcoming small town atmosphere of our village to the folks who live here. People think it would decrease local shopping downtown while encouraging more tourists. Please consider these concerns and vote no to continue any discussion or moving forward on paid parking. I would like to say, I know there's been a lot of scuttlebutt and questions on the paid parking. This is a long process that's going to take place or could take place where the public will be involved in comments and suggestions. So this is very much just a first step, if the council so approves, moving forward to continue working on this plan and taking recommendations, whether it be hours of parking or whatever it might be. So we're very much in the preliminary stages if the council so does approve. So thank you, Ms. Lowry, for your comments. All right. Let's see here. We have a special presentation. We have 2 swearing-ins. I'm going to defer to Chief Aaron Miller.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the time this evening. As you know, historically, we like to recognize our new police officers formally when they come on board with us. So William Byrd, will you come on out? We have one of our new hires, William Byrd from Boone. William's born and raised in Boone. He's here with his wife Stephanie and several of his family members tonight. But William is no rookie. He was first sworn in 1991, so he's been doing this a while. He's worked for Boone Police Department, Ashe County Sheriff's Office, and some other places. So we're very delighted to have William and his experience. You got to meet him during the retreat with his K-9. So he's been bringing him on board has been able to fast track our K-9 program, which we were working on plans for that, but that's really expedited things. So we're really happy to have him on board.
I, William Dalton Byrd,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
and the town of Little Rock,
and the town of Little Rock,
not inconsistent therewith,
and not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
of police officer
of police officer
to which I have been entrusted
to which I have been entrusted
without fear or favor,
without fear or favor,
so help me God.
so help me God.
And a first for me tonight, personally, William's son Tanner also works for us, so Tanner is going to pin his badge. That's good. I've seen fathers pin badges on sons. William will be filling one of the 2 new positions that was approved last July. This year. Next person, William Bradley. William Bradley came to me one day. He has a home now here in Blowing Rock and hopes to be permanently here in Blowing Rock before too long. But he's asked to be a part-time reserve with our department. And after talking to him, I was surprised to find out that he's the captain of the reserve program for Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office, and has been for 20 years. So he was sworn in down there in what year? I have to read this. So he's also got quite a bit of experience, and we're delighted to have him here. He's already started participating in our community. He's been working with the chamber. He's on the Winterfest board and some other things. So I think you're going to see William around. We have 2 Williams. I think you're going to see William around a whole lot in the future. So we're glad to have him as well.
I, William James Bradley Jr.,
I, William James Bradley Jr.,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
and the town of Little
and
Rock,
the town of Blowing Rock,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of police officer
of police officer
to which I have been entrusted
to which I have been entrusted,
without fear or favor,
without fear or favor,
so help me God.
so help me God. Thank you.
And I did want to mention, he's married to his wife Woodson, and they have where's your house at here, William?
Off of Chestnut.
Off of Chestnut. And he's probably As far as I know, the only sworn police officer that resides inside the city limits of Blowing Rock, so that's a big accomplishment. So thank you all very much.
Wait a minute.
Aaron?
Question.
Yes,
Council.
What happens about Bow Wow Bird? Does he not get sworn in?
oh. We'll bring him in later and see if we can get him to behave for a few minutes.
That's his dog. You see that dog go?
All right.
Why not? He's off.
Moving right along. I tell you, hats off to the council and the chief, town manager. I mean, we've got a great police force, and I, as a citizen, am very proud of it. All right, Middle Fork Greenway presentation. Wendy, how are you?
Thank you so much for letting me be here tonight to provide you an update on the Middle Fork Greenway. It is very exciting. There's a lot happening right now. Let me make sure I know how to use this. There we go. All right, so this is the map of the Greenway. Y'all are so familiar with the 321 corridor, and there is so much potential to be happening on the Middle Fork Greenway. So when you think about connecting Boone to Blowing Rock and Blowing Rock to Boone with a walking bicycle riding path, it's going to change the dynamic of our community when it is complete. It's amazing. So I was actually at an Watauga County EDC meeting last week when Councilman Guarini was there. And we talked a lot about the 321 corridor and the potential that it has to really lift up both communities, to spread people out, to get people to attract to our recreational corridor. And when you think about what we're going to connect to, it's going to connect to the existing Boone Greenway, the Watauga Medical Center. We're building parks all along the way, the Boone Golf Club, the Middle Fork New River. We've got the future Boone Gorge Park, Payne Branch Park, Gold Mine Branch Park, connecting to Tweetsie Railroad, Mystery Hill, the High Gravity Adventures, another park down here, another park we're getting ready to build. Blue Ridge Conservancy, our 46-acre conservation campus, is coming together. We have a 2.2-mile loop trail that's been completed, that's open to the public, so all are welcome to hike on that trail, which will connect to the Greenway eventually. And then when you come down into the Blowing Rock area, it's going to connect to the Visitor Center, the Foley Center, Blue Ridge Parkway, Mountains to Sea Trail, Tanger, which is now just Shops on the Parkway, is that right? And then, of course, downtown Blowing Rock. So it's really exciting what this Greenway is going to do in our community. And then, of course, it's already bringing in economic development with new breweries and coffee shops, and the fishing in the Middle Fork is amazing, and there's a ton of anglers out there. So restaurants, arts, the Arts Council is really excited about working with bringing arts to the corridor and having all those fishing access points. So funding, so far, we have actually raised about $12.7 million towards the Middle Fork Greenway. It's amazing. We have spent about $7 million. That's everything from land acquisition, trail building, permitting, engineering, administration, all the things. And we have about $5.6 million in hand that's been pledged from grants, state and federal, to be spent in the next couple of years. So where did all this money come from? It has come from Watauga County TDA. They've allocated $2.7 million towards the Middle Fork Greenway. State and federal grants, about $6.3 million, have come through in grant funding from state and federal. Private donations, foundations, Roundup for the Greenway, which many Blowing Rock businesses have participated in, has been a huge success. Blowing Rock TDA has been a huge support. So all of these supporters are what is coalescing to build the Middle Fork Greenway. So what has all that money done so far? Well, we've built 2 trailheads. We've got the one here in Blowing Rock, which is really popular. We have the paver project where we've had 100 pavers installed of folks who've donated. We just finished the 321 trailhead, which is closer towards the Boone area. It's got river access, and it was done last year, and it connects to a mile of trail. We have 3 pocket parks that we have protected. They've got fishing access, picnic areas, parking, all along the corridor so far. We've got 85 acres of land protected in the corridor. So from Boone to Blowing Rock, there's kind of this green ribbon that we're trying to establish that's going to create a nice green buffer for our people, our wildlife, and visitors to enjoy our natural resources. So I'm really excited about that 85 acres. It's great. We've got 2 miles of trail on the ground so far. We have a couple of miles in the works coming up. So right now, what's coming up is the Tweetsie connector. So this area right here is Tweetsie Railroad's parking lot, the southern end, or the northern end of it. This right here, the Quality Plus gas station is right here. So we just finished this section of trail. We have about 600 feet right here that needs to be finished. We have everything lined up. Our funding, our design, our engineering, our bid packages. We're waiting on one permit from the FEMA, so it's in works right now. I got an email this morning from the DPS from North Carolina, and it's slowly but surely making its way. So we hope to go to construction on this section this year. So this is the culvert underneath Highway 320, and the 321 is right up here. And so we'll be using this third culvert to get under, kind of like what's at Mystery Hill right now. Last year, NCDOT funded 2 feasibility studies on 2 miles of the Greenway. So basically from the hospital down to Niley Cook, and then from Sterling Creek Park, where our Greenway dead ends, down through Faith Bridge Church. So in those 2 miles, we're actually making some success. We were a pilot study in the state, so they funded all of it, a whole $150,000 feasibility study just for free for us, which was amazing. So with that, we are able to go to bid on some engineering. Here's Sterling Creek Park, where the Greenway dead ends. So this right here is a 76 station right there on 321. We'll be building this section after we raise the funding it takes to build it. But it's going to be another park with parking access and a lot of river frontage. So doing some stream restoration and fishing access points through here. So this is phase A of section 3. It looks like this. This is the bottomland. It's beautiful. We'll be doing some stream restoration, access to nature off the highway. The river is beautiful through here, but the river also has some restoration that needs to be done. We've lost about 15 feet of soil from the river rising and just crunching in. So the Greenway will actually be up top here, and the river will be moved over. So this is in the next couple of years to be done as well. We just purchased, Blue Ridge Conservancy, we were able to purchase 33 acres last year with the help of Watauga TDA and our Senator Ballard and Representative Pickett. We were able to buy that 33 acres on the Boone Gorge. And so if y'all haven't been out here, I would love to take you. It is an incredible piece of property. It's stunning. There's waterfalls and trout fishing. I took a county commissioner out there this morning. He said, I'm coming back to fish tomorrow. Because it is just a really beautiful place. We're really excited about it because we purchased the property last year. We're already under design, engineering, and permitting. That should be done in the next year. And it's going to include a mile of trail, Greenway Trail, a big loop, a parking area. And this parking area right here is about 1/3 of a mile from Watauga Medical Center. So it's a really close trip to get from the hospital over to a natural area to be able to ride your bike, walk, be in nature, and enjoy. So this is on the Boone side of things. So let's talk about Blowing Rock. People ask me, well, why has it taken so long? What's happening with the Middle Fort Greenway in Blowing Rock? The town of Blowing Rock applied for a grant to the Eastern Federal Lands Access Program in 2016. All these words here basically are showing that in November 2016, we applied. We received the actual execution of the contract 2 years later from the Eastern Federal Lands Access Program. So it took 2 years to get all the contracts signed to have the money available to spend. So that first 2 years was just back and forth with all the different government agencies. Then we got funding. They said, sure, here's some money. So in 2018, it was awarded, and it was an 80% match from the federal government with a 20% local match. So that 1.8 million came in, and we came up with the 422,000 to match it. And all those match sources came from a whole bunch of local sources, from the Blowing Rock TDA, Blue Ridge Conservancy, Roundup for the Greenway, People for Bikes, different funding grants from the state. So it was really beneficial. So we had all that money in hand, and we did not put enough money in there for engineering. And so Blue Ridge Conservancy came up with an additional $130,000 to pay for that. So here we are, 2019, we're rolling along. We've hired Withers Ravenel. We've got the categorical exclusion happening, which is kind of the permit that they require for greenways on federal lands. So we're rolling along. We've got 30% design surveys, public input, and then COVID hit. Things kind of slowed down, as we know. Blue Ridge Parkway had a new superintendent at the time. It was interim. They were basically unavailable during that whole year to figure out what we needed to do. So when Superintendent Swartout became available and was hired as the new superintendent, she has been amazing. She has assembled a team of Blue Ridge Parkway employees to help guide us through the environmental assessment. The EA, the CADX was not enough. They wanted us to do an EA, which is about a 200-page permit that we've already turned in in December. And so I think it's going to be about another 200 pages before it's done. And so we have some more work to do on that. So you can see this is Tanger Outlets right here. This is the Foley Center, and the Blue Ridge Parkway comes down through here. So right now, in order to get the Greenway through the Blue Ridge Parkway, we have to vet every possible potential alternate route that there possibly could be. And so all of these lines in here represent all the different possibilities that we have narrowed down, the top 4, 5 for the Blue Ridge Parkway. Now the EA encompasses archaeological studies, tree studies, bat studies, endangered species studies, landscape studies. So it could be a while before we actually have the EA completed. And with that $2.3 million that we're sitting in hand from the EFLAP, it's just sitting there, just waiting to be spent. Well, we can't spend it until we have permission. And so what we're looking at doing is going ahead and phasing this project out to where we have A, from Tanger to the Blue Ridge Parkway, and we have B, this whole section here of the Blue Ridge Parkway, and then section C, which is the Foley Center. So we already have an easement through the Foley Center that's ready to roll. So if we were to do all of this and break it up into the 3 phases, we actually could go ahead and spend the money that we have in hand to get A and C built this year, start construction this year. We are working on our 60% plans are done. Those should be submitted to the town by the end of this month, and DOT for approvals. So section A will cost about $1 million, section C 850. And while we work on all of this construction, we can continue working on the environmental assessment with Blue Ridge Parkway. Our last meeting with Blue Ridge Parkway, someone said, well, a similar EA in another region took 8 years to get through. And I about hit the floor. We can't wait. So I don't think this one will take that long, but it could take some more time. So we feel like we should move forward and spend the money that we have in hand. So the next thing is, since we submitted that grant in 2016, we all know what's happened. Prices have gone up. And so the $2.2 million that we have in hand is not enough. And it's not an estimate. We actually have the design. So it's about $2 million that we need for the Blue Ridge Parkway section. So as we build the A and the C sections, we can fundraise for the Blue Ridge Parkway area from multiple different funding sources, from the state, probably not federal again, but from Blowing Rock TDA, General Assembly, Watauga TDA, foundations, because Watauga TDA is actually able to allocate funding towards the Blue Ridge Parkway. They can't spend money in Blowing Rock, but they can spend money on the Parkway. So I would like to go back to them as well. So that's the plan for right now. This could all change depending on what the federal government wants to do. So the timeline is we will be having our 60% plans into y'all by the end of this month. We are hoping to have our bid documents for construction ready by early summer, late spring. And then once everything is approved, we can go ahead and get the contractors and start building those 2 phases at the end of this year. Phase B, Blue Ridge Parkway, we'll just continue working with them. We do feel like the staff wants to help us. They just feel like they have to go through all the hoops that they're supposed to go through to make sure they're doing the right thing for their jobs. So one of the really exciting things is that in 2019, the Watauga County Planning and Inspections Department put together a corridor strategy for 321. And it's pretty comprehensive. It has a lot of different ideas in there and ways that we can elevate the corridor to enhance both Blowing Rock and Boone. And so it's really exciting that that study's been out there, and that was done a few years ago. And with all of the partners that we have, I really feel like once we get the next couple of sections on the ground, it's going to be a catalyst, and it's just going to keep on rolling and snowballing. So I want to thank the town of Blowing Rock so much from my heart, because everyone on staff helps tremendously, from the maintenance to grant administration. Blowing Rock TDA support has been incredible. There's just a lot of businesses. The Blowing Rock Rotary has installed all these pavers out there. So the town of Blowing Rock is really doing its part to make the Middle Fork Greenway happen, and I'm really, really thankful for that. So thank you. Are there any questions? I just ran through a lot of information.
That was great.
It's just in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Excellent. I appreciate it.
We have money.
All right.
At least
It's a good thing you have the patience to judge, isn't it?
Just that lady. All right. Moving right along. We're moving into the regular agenda. This is further update on paid parking. For this evening, council, we will have to make a motion to approve this group moving forward to continue assessing paid parking and take it to the next level. So, Chief?
I think the mayor summarized it pretty well at the retreat a few weeks ago. We went over this pretty extensively. I can do a quick run through if you'd like for the audience that's here that may not have heard all the information last time. So as a result of a study that was done by the Tourism Development Authority back in 2021, Roger Brooks, one of his recommendations was that the town increase their amount of parking. And one of his recommendations to fund that parking was a pay-to-park program. So as a result of that recommendation from the consultant from the TDA, we began looking at some different options for pay-to-park that we could present. First thing we did was established a committee to look at some of the different aspects of parking. Some of the things they looked at was the time, the duration of parking in different locations, and what we would charge to park in different locations. We tried to get a group that well represented our community. We had people from our churches, town council members, the TDA, the Chamber of Commerce. We had business representatives, business owner representatives. We had community representatives at large. So we think we had a pretty well-rounded group to make some recommendations. That work went on throughout 2022. Some of the things that committee came up with was they were in favor of recommending to the town that we pursue a pay-to-park program, and that would include all of our parking areas with the exception of one in town. That our pay-to-park times would be 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., except on Sundays, and it would be 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. so we could accommodate our church traffic. They recommended that we have a 2 hour per hour rate for parking on street, which includes Main Street, Sunset Drive, Pine Street, and a couple of other areas. And that we have a $1.50 per hour rate for our off-street parking, which includes the Maple Street lot, our parking decks, the memorial or the Burl Hill Park and pool area. One area that we did designate as free parking to try to alleviate some of the concerns like we heard in the letter earlier, where would the employees for some of our merchants park and that sort of thing. So we tried to leave the parking area at Devant Field as a free parking area. That parking area is also underutilized. So the thought process was we could try to move some of the some of the parking to the underutilized parking areas and free up the space on Main Street. Some of the goals that we set out to accomplish by having a pay-to-park program were to provide funds to be used for additional parking to be built, to keep our parking program financially self-sufficient, to ensure that there is adequate parking available downtown for business customers, to help with the flow of traffic through town, and to continue to provide positive customer service. So we tried to come up with a plan that covered all of those goals. It was also recommended by the committee that we have a few spaces in the Maple Street parking lot that were reserved for residents only. They would still be a cost to that. You would still have to pay the hourly rate to park, but through a permitting system, it would be assigned to residents only. There would be no restriction for any employees of our merchants to park anywhere they like if they want to pay the fee. Many of the businesses have their own parking lots. Some rely on town parking lots, but again, we did provide a free parking option at the Devant Field. We also recommended that the parking fines for failure to pay for parking would result in a $25 fine. So we've been over these recommendations with council a couple of times. After we presented those findings and that committee wrapped up its work, the staff, we set up another committee that was made up of staff, the TDA, the chamber was there for a meeting or two. And the purpose for that group was to talk about things like the design, the placement, and the accessibility of pay stations, phone app requirements, vendor qualification criteria, technical requirements and integrations for all the system to work, finance processes, and IT requirements. So our pay to park plan includes being able to pay for your parking spot by two different methods. One would be an app that's on your smartphone. The second would be a multi-space pay station that would be scattered about through town fairly sporadically, but there and available for those folks that do not have a smartphone or would rather pay by cash or some other traditional means. Part of the plan was that the separate funds would be set up to handle these parking monies. There's some state laws that dictate some of how we have to do that, but these special funds would be set up and those monies could be set aside to offset the cost of our parking enforcement and also to build additional parking and maintain the parking that we have. Prior to moving forward with any additional, with the pay parking program, we are required to amend our town code, giving us the authority to charge for parking and to regulate that. Prior to the town codes being changed, we are required to have a public hearing that's publicized at least 30 days in advance. So the next step, if the council decides to move forward tonight, would be to move forward with that public hearing and the vote on the code amendments. We've also talked with Mr. Fox, and we think it would probably be a good idea for us to also, between this meeting, if you choose to move forward, and the next public hearing, to maybe hold a town hall style meeting where we could advertise for the public could come in, ask questions, we could cover a lot of the things that maybe the public has some concerns about. Some of the concerns that I've heard, it's been relayed back to me recently, have been that charging to park will ruin our tourism at Blowing Rock. But I'd like to remind everybody that this recommendation comes from the Tourism Development Authority. They're the ones that commissioned the study. This recommendation is from their consultant who has a great deal of experience. One of the other things that I've heard recently was we're punishing, and we heard it again in the letter tonight, and it's a valid question, that we're punishing the residents who pay taxes already. One of the purposes in trying to establish a pay-to-park program is to avoid punishing residents who are already paying taxes. One of the concerns that residents have is that they're already paying to provide the services and the support and the structures for the tourists that are coming in. A pay-to-park program is a way to share those expenses with tourists without having to have a tax increase for the residents of Blowing Rock to help pay and fund these things that we need. But we do think that a town hall style meeting might be helpful. We would like to, we'll get that scheduled between now and the time of the public hearing. Some of the things in the town code that would have to be amended would be adding a chapter to deal with pay to park, amending our parking fines and fees. Following those code amendments and approval of the code amendments, we would have some contract approvals for some vendors. We talked at our town retreat about some vendor selection process that we were utilizing. All of the vendors that we were interested in looking at are members of the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance. That purchasing alliance solicits bids, requests for qualifications, and all that information is there, so it would save us duplicating those efforts. We tried to look at companies, particularly our phone payment app. We tried to look at companies who are already established and had a large footprint in North Carolina, where a lot of our visitors come from. The company that we have decided on is Passport Parking. Another reason for Passport Parking is they also have a enforcement module, enforcement software that's available. So that would eliminate the need for a separate company to provide us with software and support for enforcement software. Passport, they've been in business for 12 years. They're a North Carolina-based company. Some of the areas that they're already in is Raleigh, Charlotte, Asheville, Carolina Beach, Hickory, Davison, Atlantic Beach. I know they're in North Myrtle Beach and some other places where we draw some of our visitors from. The multi-space meters, we looked at several different vendors that provide multi-space meters. We wanted to select one that was solar, one that would work off of LTE or wireless so we didn't have to run lines. We also wanted one that was going to be very easy for us to service in-house. It was modular so we could swap out those components. So we did look at a company, Flowbird. Flowbird is a company that already works with Passport in their back office system, so that the setup would be very, very easy. Flowbird is an international company. They have meters in 80 countries, 4,350 cities around the world. Some of their meters, if you're in Raleigh, I know Raleigh has Flowbird multi-space meters on their streets. They're a very nice design, very small footprint, so they won't take up much space. We talked during this process many times about the revenue potential. The revenue potential is somewhat of a difficult number to come up with because we've never done anything like this before. So there's been multiple projections. I know Mr. Brooks, when he did the TDA presentation, he had a revenue projection. I came up with a revenue projection. Ms. Norman also reached out to one of our finance companies that we work with. They came up with a revenue projection as well, but all these projections were based on a similar formula. That was taking the numbers from the TDA as far as occupancy percentages and coming up with what we believe would be the percentage of occupancy for our parking spaces at certain times. For example, if our hotel occupancy rate is 60% in June, we could anticipate that our parking occupancy would be 60% in June as well. So we took those numbers and were able to come up with some revenue projections. The lowest of those revenue projections was $1.3 million per year. The program costs are laid out. There will be some initial capital expenses. If the parking program was to be implemented in this fiscal year, there was some cost. We know now that after our retreat, we discussed that, and we know that it will not be implemented before the next fiscal year. But our annual reoccurring expenses would be approximately $280,000. So it's very easy. It's we're pretty certain on the program costs. Those are easy numbers to come up with and calculate. Although everything is going up at an extraordinarily rapid rate, so that makes it a little difficult. So we know that our annual reoccurring costs are somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000. So if our revenue potentials are, if we reach our revenue projection of $1.3 million, that's $800,000 that we should be able to set aside for additional parking maintenance, and those kinds of things. We also have a plan developed and ready to go for public-private partnerships. The thought process behind that is we wanted to create revenue for the individual organizations who have surplus parking during certain days and times, identify additional parking that can be utilized by the public, and help private parking owners manage their parking areas to prevent abuse. So we know going into this, if the town elects to move forward with a pay-to-park plan, we're probably going to put some pressure on private parking lots like Rumpel Church, perhaps like First Citizens Bank. So we wanted to have a plan up front to try to help manage those problems and give those folks an opportunity to make some revenue as well. And hopefully the town can utilize some of those private parking spaces that are out there. These private parking spaces that are underutilized through the week on the private parking lots are probably as much, if not more, as the parking spaces that the town owns. So to be able to leverage those parking lots is a huge benefit to the town. So that's the end of, that's a quick rundown of what we talked about during council retreat and the plan that's been proposed. So that's all I have tonight, unless you have additional questions.
Council?
We would, I assume we would set up a separate enterprise fund for this, is that correct?
Yeah, Ms. Norman, if you will.
Yeah, we have talked about potentially an enterprise fund and a special revenue fund. The funds that are generated from paid parking, they will have to go back into the paid parking to support the paid parking as an enterprise. However, funds above that, that are derived, could be set up in a special revenue fund where they can be utilized, depending on how much.
Later.
Received. Different, yes, later. Correct.
Okay.
Well, would someone like to make a motion?
Chief, thank you so much.
If there's no more questions, I'll step out and.
Well, particular thanks to the parking committee and all the, beyond what you have to do on a daily basis, everything that you put into this. Thank you. Mayor, I would love to make a motion to instruct the parking committee to move forward with their work. And then I guess the next step would be a public hearing.
So our thought process, and it can change, we would have to give a 30-day notice prior to a public hearing. So if we do it at a regular town council meeting, April would be the earliest of which we would plan on doing it. So that's 2 meetings from now. If we would like to do a town hall meeting, I think that may be beneficial. Even prior to that, it could be even done on the same day. If it needs to be done in an earlier hour, it could be done, days before that. We may want to use a facility like the American Legion or something similar in case we have a good turnout. And that wouldn't necessarily have to be town council driven. That could be parking committee or staff driven and helping answer some of those questions, or at least start gathering some of those comments to bring back to you all, for that public hearing. So that was kind of our spitballing it, so to speak, of what we would look at as a potential schedule. If that's fair to you.
I love you handling
it. Facilitating it may be the better word.
Facilitating.
Not sure if we're
Let's
handling
use
it.
that
We would
word.
facilitate it.
All right, we have a motion on the table.
Second.
Albert, second. Do we have any additional discussion? Yes, Pete?
I would echo Aaron's comments about taking care of local residents, because I've heard from a number of people that they would like to see more specifically how we're going to do that, where we're going to do that. And you've mentioned Devon Field. I think that's good, but I think we need to really hone in on that. And then Shane, I had asked you some time ago about the use of parking funds, and you went through a litany of things. So would you just repeat that so that the audience will know?
So parking funds, and again, just to kind of further Ms. Norman's point, are a little bit complicated depending on the location of the parking. So there's a general statute, and I can't recall and recite the exact general statute, that requires any parking funds that are derived from on-street parking. So that would be our Main Street, Sunset, Park Avenue, Wallingford parking would have to go into a special fund or an enterprise fund that would have to then offset the parking cost. The other parking, so the parking decks, the pool parking, the parking lots that the town owns would go into a special revenue fund that could be used for additional parking, capital needs, fundings, things of that nature. And then you have also a potential private-public partnership that Chief Miller spoke of that more than likely would go into that same special revenue fund.
Okay, thank
So
you.
the on-street parking is a old statute that's still out there that exists that restricts the town's use of those funds only to pay for the parking enforcement itself and the parking process, the parking program. So we'd have to set that up in a separate fund.
Charlie, the only thing else I would say, it's really critical that we have this meeting for the public so that they have a chance, and we ought to be prepared for a lot of people to show up because a lot of people are talking about it. So I don't know if this is the right facility or how you stage it, but that's really important to make sure we do.
I think the Legion Hall would be good.
Yes.
Well, I realized after our town council retreat, and we started having some additional feedback, a lot of people said they hadn't heard about paid parking, even though we've talked about it, I think, 6 public meetings already, that it might be a good idea to go ahead and have that town hall meeting, answer some questions, let people ask the questions, and we'll try to answer them. And there may be some things, I'm sorry, there may be some things that we need to shift in our plan. So once we have that feedback, if we look and there's some things that we need to shift, we can certainly do that.
I think
I'm
that's
certain, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's most important because we may gather from citizens some other things that maybe we haven't talked about or thought about.
Right.
So
And I'm
that'd be a
quite
good time to do
certain
it.
that whatever we implement now will probably have to be tweaked and changed as we go along. We've never done this before, so I'm sure that we'll have to make some changes in the upcoming months.
Question on the manager.
Doug?
I was wanting to know if it would be still worth it to, even though we're looking at, we don't know whether we're gonna do paid parking or not do paid parking. As we need to go ahead and still start these code amendments and look at code enforcement for parking, period. Whether we go ahead with paid parking or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, you have draft code amendments that are already in the plan. You can look over those. Those will be the identical code amendments that will be presented to be adopted following the public hearing. We're thinking that will be at the April regular scheduled town council meeting, but we already have that in place in the packet. So.
If I may, or Mr. Matheson, are you referring to the enforcement piece of it?
Right.
Okay, so the timing of paid to park, we discussed at the retreat, was going to be pushed back to next fiscal year, which begins July 1st, but more than likely fall is what I believe we all heard is kind of the earliest implementation of paid to park. So are you referring, I believe,
But we're gonna need some type of enforcement for this summer.
Okay.
Right. One thing that Mr. Fox and I have talked about was we do have funds that are in our regular budget for parking enforcement. There's still monies available for, we typically start parking enforcement around Memorial Day. It's typically when we try to start. So there are still some funds available to be used during that last part of May and the first part of June. So perhaps we could go ahead if town council moves forward with the plan if town council moves forward with the code amendments, we could probably go ahead and move forward with hiring at least one of our additional staff that we proposed, maybe bringing them in by Memorial Day to be here over those summer months until we fully implement the plan. Would be one suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Believe me, I've been here long enough to know that people sometimes don't hear what people should sometimes hear. And I want everybody to know, I seconded a motion tonight, made by David, and I think David will back me up. Our next move is not approval. Our next move is to hear what the people that own this town have to say.
Right. All we're asking for tonight is council's approval to move forward. We've been working on this for over 12 months, 12 or 14 months, and there's not been an official vote by council. So the vote tonight we're asking for is just to approve the plan so that we can move forward, schedule a public hearing and on the code amendments. But until the code amendments are approved, then the Payne Park plan, the Payne Park is not approved.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
It wasn't a question, it
Okay.
was just he's spitting out how I felt.
Right.
I know some people, as the US Navy says, 10% never get the word.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Albert, how do you vote? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Yeah.
And Peter? Okay. Chief, thanks for all your hard work. Thanks to all the committee members, and have a good evening. All righty. Wi-Fi expansion, Thomas Steele. Thomas.
Here he comes.
There he is. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm running the meeting from the back too.
All right. So to follow up kind of on what Chief Miller was talking about, a big part of paid parking, and even if paid parking doesn't happen, will be expansion of Wi-Fi. We currently have it mostly just in the park, so we're going to try to expand it to both parking decks, up and down Sunset, up and down Main Street, out to Devant, and also the Broyhill pool parking area. This will, especially if you do paid parking due to cell service around here, will help people to be able to get on the app to actually pay, or else you're going to have some problems. So we covered this in retreat. We're just going to go back over real quick. $65,000 for everything, install equipment. About 3 months to get that hardware, 2 to 3 weeks for installation, and then we could probably do that in 1 to 2 weeks, but the plan is to, by the end of June, before the big summertime, to have this up and running. Here, we're going to significantly improve the coverage of the town's Wi-Fi, seamless integration with our current system. We don't have to switch anything over. This is not an entire overhaul. We're just integrating with what we have. We can do a summer stress test before paid parking, less reliance on bad cell service, and easier to upgrade in the future, because at some point we probably will be expanding even further. And so we covered this map. I want to point out, we do now have up here towards Speckle Trail. Originally, that's kind of a dark spot. We are in communications with some business owners down there to utilize their buildings. We have verbal consent. We don't have anything official, but we will get something on that end of Main Street. And that's it, real quick. Any questions?
Thank you, Thomas. Any questions, council? David, you're squinting.
Yeah, I am. But that's not the council's problem.
This will be beneficial irregardless.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Tracy has alluded to what people will expect coming into town as a tourist. Wi-Fi availability is now one of the things that is kind of expected. So we do have it in the park. It's not great right now. So part of this expansion will also be improving the speed and strength of what we currently have. And really, if you're on a town property or within the park system, you should have access to some sort of Wi-Fi through the town, so.
Thomas, does this take into account the private lots that we were talking
It does
about?
not, has no inclusion of the private lots. Now, if Rumpel were on board, we'll be right next to Rumpel, so that one would be fairly easy if we wanted to go in that direction. The others would be more difficult, but this is not included in private
That's
lots.
something we might have to readdress.
It would be. So what we felt like, if I may, start with the town property, the public property, and then the public lots. And then if we know by the time we get to this point that we need to expand one or two more areas, this system's very easy to expand, correct, Thomas? And it could be done relatively easily.
Yeah, for the Rumpel one especially, the other ones, we would have to get a little more creative, but it's not impossible.
Are these just repeaters?
Not necessarily. So all of these, so we have fiber down to Edgewood, so that's not going to be repeating. The one down towards the other side of Main Street, it's going to be not necessarily a repeater. We're going to shoot from this building down. And it's wireless, but it's like a wired connection. So it's not really a repeater. None of these, currently only 2 are about repeaters. And that's a big deal because they don't work near as well. So we have fiber at the school as well. So going down Sunset will not be any kind of repeater.
All right, thanks.
Thomas, this quote does include the security cameras
Yes.
that we talked about,
Yes, this
right?
also includes security cameras at all the main parking locations.
Thomas, how about Glen Burnie Trail, the trailhead? Has that been thought about?
It has been thought about. It's not a part of this, but we could, it's possible, but it's not a part of this. That would involve finding some electricity down there to tie into, but we could, yeah, we could come off the Legion with a shot to get down there. If y'all wanted to add that, we could figure it out.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
You know, for safety.
Good. Cell phone.
Well, and then also we're putting in a new lift station down there in Mayview. That's gonna be communicating with the plants, is it not?
It will have an alarm system on it.
Okay. No. Oh, just a thought.
Sure.
Albert, make a motion?
Be approved.
Okay, Albert's made a motion to approve the expansion of the Wi-Fi and of course, the security cameras. Is that correct?
Correct.
Cool. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion, council? Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? And Pete?
Yes.
Thomas, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. We'll start moving on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
All right, moving right along, phase 4 of the 2014 bonds, approval of bank bids. Nicole Norman. Good evening, Nicole.
Well, here we are, 9 years after the bond referendum in 2014, ready to issue the last of our bonds. Very exciting times. Following a rate market analysis in concert with the town's financial advisors, First Tryon Financial Advisors, it was determined to be in the town's best interest to issue our final general obligation bonds via direct bank placement loan versus a public sale, as we have done with the prior issues. The dollar amount and then the market rates were the main factors in that decision that it would be better to do a privately placed bond issuance. So funds remaining to be issued total $1,695,000. That's comprised of $650,000 in the transportation and sidewalk portion of the bonds, $420,000 in the parks portion of the bonds, $590,000 in the water, and $35,000 in the sewer portions of the bonds. Details on the bond spending and plans for those bonds were reviewed at the recent town council retreat. And then on March 16th, 2023, bank bids were received to issue the final debt. We sent out, as I mentioned at the retreat, we were we've been able to utilize our financial advisors mailing list for financial institutions. So we've expanded our list to 30 different banks, and we did receive bids back from 5 financial institutions, including JP Morgan Chase Bank, NA, Zions Bank, Key Government Finance, First Horizon Bank, and Huntington Public Capital. Rates that were offered ranged from 3.29 to 4.43%, and we did receive both 15-year and 20-year term offers. Following an analysis of the proposals as well as an initial discussion of the offers with the local government commission, the recommended award is to JP Morgan Chase Bank NA at a rate of 3.29% in a term of 15 years. That initial term will have a fixed rate, and there will be a call option without penalty after the initial 10 years of the loan, so that would be in 2033. There are closing fees of $5,500 to JP Morgan Chase Bank, and we can also expect LGC closing costs, financial advisor service fees, and bond attorney fees. I will note that looking at our previous issuances on the public market, this is actually a less expensive issuance option. So that is a positive. And following town council consideration of the proposal, the LGC will consider the financing for final approval at their March 7th, 2023 regular meeting. Should final approval be received, the loan will be scheduled for closing on or before March 16th. In order to proceed with issuance of the debt, it is necessary for town council to adopt the enclosed resolution, including form of the bond, authorizing issuance of the bond, as well as acceptance of the proposal offered by JP Morgan Chase Bank. There are documents enclosed in this for your review. We have the resolution that provides for the issuance of the funds, as well as the proposal from JP Morgan Chase, and a bid summary of all the bids received. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has on any of these documents.
Council? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the bid placed by JP Morgan, which will finalize phase 4 of the bond referendum, moving forward? Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? Aye. And Pete?
Aye.
Norman? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Retreat review, Manager Shane Fox.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We're moving along here nicely tonight. As I always try to do, and I will make it quick, because I know you all have heard this, and I do believe between our new social media channels and our e-newsletter and even the Watauga Democrat has done a pretty good job. I think we've done an excellent job, I should say. I think we've done an overall good job of putting out kind of a retreat recap for 2023. Just again, for the public's knowledge, if nothing else, we did start the retreat, as we always do, with a recap of the prior year. In this case, we actually went back several years. We then laid the groundwork, Ms. Norman did, with our financial update, mid-year financial update, where we stand from a total debt and debt capacity standpoint. And then we looked at the phase 4 of the bond that was just approved tonight. I put up here just a slide that I showed you all, kind of starting that morning of our first top 10 list when I was on my first year here, 2020. And then I put some colors on here, again, just to show the green represents what's been accomplished. The yellow is in progress, of which some of these topics have been discussed tonight. Others will be approved at special meetings, like the water meters coming up to the 28th. And then even further, comprehensive plan bids will be presented to you all at the March Town Council meeting, along with our Main Street water sewer North Main sidewalk underground utilities / paving project will be coming again during the March timeframe. So just showing some color here. of the progress that's been made in the last few years. The green, like I said, represents what's been completed. The yellow is soon to be started. And then the red, Legion Hill, is kind of put off to the side for now. Quick review, again, just from a recap, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you all may have. List of topics in order as they were essentially presented after we went through an update and financial status review. Started with the 2024 comprehensive plan. That's a 10-year update. Mr. Rothrock spoke to you all about the bid process. We are planning on having those bids ready for you to review at the March Town Council meeting. Mr. Blackburn spoke about cemetery expansion, and we're planning on having some updated information to you all at the summer retreat. Water meters have been talked about for a number of years. That's the AMI technology, cloud-based meter reading, very positive on the client customer portal, along with allowing us to have more access, and technology would give us much more capabilities understanding where our water use and water loss is. Again, along with real-time data that's going to be passed along to the customers. That bid process has already taken place. We right now have out for bank placement bids the $1.2 million that the initial bid came in at. So we'll have that information presented to the town the 23rd. Those bids will be back, and then again, we'll plan on presenting that at a special town council meeting on February the 28th at 5 o'clock. That special town council meeting is really to be in compliance with the LGC's debt calendar that will take place in March. So we're looking for that discussion to take place on the 28th, not only on the bid process and the bid results from the meter company, the entity itself, the vendor, but also we'll have the results of our bank placement and what that term looks like that you can review at the same time, with the hopes that you all would potentially approve that package that would be sent on to the state local government commission for their approval as well. Main Street project, bids are due back. Second round of bids are due back on February the 21st. Again, this is our very large and complicated Main Street project that includes our water and sewer replacement, along with North Main sidewalk, which runs from essentially El Rincon down to Hill Street. Also includes the paving as that project gets put back into place. And then up for discussion is the underground utilities. So we did bid this out once before. We received one bid back. Obviously, we were not allowed to open that bid. The second bid process is taking place right now. That's it. Planning on concluding next week at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, the 21st. Fingers crossed we get at least one. If we get one or more, we can open them, obviously, and move forward with some recommendations to you all. That could be at the March Town Council meeting at the earliest. We would have to wait for the state to approve the water sewer portion of that project and the bid results, given the General Assembly's appropriation for the $4.8 million that goes towards that side of the project. That also could be a potential special meeting, given the complexity and some of the notoriety, I think, that's come along with this project that may be warranted as well. But at the earliest that we could discuss this would be at the March Town Council meeting, or a special meeting that would take place after the March Town Council meeting. Pay parking obviously was discussed tonight, and then plan now is to move forward with that and come back to you all with what sounds like, number one, kind of a town hall question and answer type meeting while we set a public hearing date, either for the April meeting or somewhere thereabouts. Police Matters talked about EV vehicles and the updates and some of the new technology. Lieutenant Dotson spoke to you all about some of the fantastic things that are coming with electric vehicles and police cruisers, and while we're not comfortable quite yet going that route, and we'll continue with purchasing our hybrid vehicles that we've been doing now for quite some time. Also talked about shift differential that we will plan on proposing to you all during the 23-24 budget, along with our K-9 officer, Mr. Bird, who was here tonight being sworn in, that kind of expedites that. Last page of items, EMS 24/7. I think that first was discussed before I was born and continues to be a topic among the town, and we're hoping to be making progress in that topic with the county, yet to be determined. Green Hill Communication Building, that's within our 23-24 budget as well. That's just replacement of our lovely green building that I showed you pictures of. That's been in need of replacement now for the last few years. That does hold our radio equipment, our repeaters, and so we will be looking to upgrade those repeaters as well. That's crucial to our fire, police, and public works. Tonight, we did discuss our Wi-Fi expansion, and you just gave approval for that, so that's an exciting topic that's already been taken care of, and we'll start that, I'm sure, start that PO process and get that implementation going just as quickly as Thomas can get the hardware in. Memorial Park project, just like our Main Street project, other than, a little different, we did bid that project out. We did not receive any bids back. So at least on the Main Street project, we received one, so there was some hope there that they may come back. We do think timing is going to be a big difference. We had a lot of things out for bid, like the Main Street project, water meters and others. So contractors did allude to the fact they felt like they needed more time to be able to submit an accurate bid for the Main Street, or for the part of the project. That's due back at 3 o'clock next Tuesday, so an hour after our Main Street project. We do feel like we will receive some bids. Again, as long as we receive one bid, we plan on presenting that to you all. That project is different in a lot of ways because of the funding. So if you recall, again, fingers crossed, bids come back, close to what our budget projections are. Number one is utilizing a part of grant, $500,000 that we have received authorization for. Secondly is the $420,000 that you saw a few minutes ago when Ms. Norman spoke of the 2014 bond. So that's phase number 2, or piece number 2 to the match to that. We also have some TDA money and ABC money that we've already earmarked for this project in hopes that it comes in relatively close to the budget. All things being held equal, unless there's something that comes back different or we don't receive bids, we are planning on bringing this project to you all at the March Town Council meeting and asking for your approval to move forward with that, in hopes that we don't have any additional funding needs, or if we have to potentially value engineer something, we'd bring those recommendations to you. But that timeline at this point is to bring that to you at the March Town Council meeting. Lastly, a couple things, USDA updates. Those are our water and wastewater plant and lift station plans to upgrade and replace our lift station. Mr. Chapman gave you an update how that process is a little bit slower because of some of the permitting and some of the hoops that we've had to jump through. I think the long-eared bat was what he referred to, had caused us a little delay. We're now working through that permitting process and plan on bringing that project to you all towards the end of 2023. I think we have a number of things going on that that'll come in after we get everything else kind of kicked off and running. But that is some much needed upgrades to our plants, water plant, wastewater plant, our lift station. We are applying through USDA, which is a low interest 40-year loan that does allow us to kind of smooth that debt service out so it's more manageable. Again, that's in the water and sewer fund, not in the general fund, water and sewer fund. We then kind of concluded the retreat on a couple topics that were employee benefit related, discussed adding some community hours that would allow our employees to use time to go out and volunteer in the community. And we also discussed a potential child development center that would be for our employees. Both those things are in the works right now, and I'm planning on coming back to you all with the details and asking for approval of that, potentially at the March Town Council meeting. We're trying to work through some of that timeline now. That being said, I did run through that fairly quickly. I know you all have heard it many times. I try to share that, if nothing else, from the public who may not have been aware of the retreat or had a chance to read the article in the paper or follow along with some of our updates that we've been able to provide, social media, et cetera. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Shane. Thanks for all the hard work.
Absolutely.
All right, moving right along. Board appointments.
So next we have, and I think this is our last item before we go into the official comments and closed session. Board appointments for 2023. Our clerk has our ballots ready and markers. I will just go over, and we can do this one at a time, or I can go over each one of these, maybe as an overview to start with. You'll see here behind me our planning board. We do need 3 slots for our planning board tonight. Expiring terms, Bill McCarter and Pete Page, and Mr. Sam Glover has resigned effective this week from the planning board. So we do have 3 open positions or slots to fill with our planning board. We do have 6 applicants: Mr. Bill McCarter, Mr. Greg Berstrom, Mr. Larry Armour, Mrs. Lindsay Cook, Mr. Brooks Mason, and Mr. Charles Gillum. So we have 6 applications for 3 slots. Board of Adjustments, a little more complicated, and we can review this as you go through. We do need 2 full-time members of the Board of Adjustments and 1 alternate, so we need 3 positions. Our expiring terms are Jerry Starnes, which is a full-time position, Lance Campbell, which is a full-time position, and Sarah Murphy, which is an alternate. Sarah Murphy has reapplied. Brandon Walker has applied. He's an alternate now. Jerry Starnes has applied. Again, he is a full-time member now. And then we put here second choice. We did ask the applicants of the planning board if they were not to receive a position on the planning board, would they take a position on the Board of Adjustments? The three names you see here on the list have agreed to do that if they don't have a slot on the planning board, which is Greg Burnstone, Larry Armour, and Brooks Mason. The last two are a little simpler. We need one for the ABC board. Susie Green's term is expiring. Susie Green has reapplied along with Al Shackelford. TDA, we need one position. This is the at-large position. And we have expiring terms of Mr. Tim Gupton, who has decided not to reapply. We do have two applicants, Zeka Ray and Brandon Walker, did put this down as another choice, along with the Board of Adjustments, so his second choice. So again, I've kind of ran through that fairly quickly, and we can start the process unless you have any questions of filling out your ballots.
All right, Hillary, floor is yours.
I will say, to make it easiest on here, you'll see where the Board of Adjustment, we have the full-time members or the alternate. When you select, if you're selected for alternate, just put an A, and then if it's full-time, put an F. Makes sense?
We have pens and markers, so you can highlight them or you can circle them or whatever you feel like is the right approach to do.
Do you have your red one?
I'm the top.
Does color matter?
Color does not matter.
We need our names.
Just indicate your purpose for the color that
Because they
you're.
will, give me the record if anybody will be then. Yes, because if anybody were to come in.
Okay.
Who's the, what's his first choice?
That's
Okay, I know.
first choice rather than.
You know, who?
Bill McCarter is currently the chairman.
Yeah, okay.
And this is David knows.
I'll let everybody else. See, this is, we get two here.
Yes.
Well. No,
He's gonna sign it in red.
observe this.
Page.
On the page.
In case you can't read this, it's in large print.
I had some people last year said I didn't sign anything. Surely you can read that.
We used deductive reasoning to figure out who it was.
I will not call any name.
On Board of Adjustments, there's one more, and then who do you want to be full-time? There's two full-time.
So you just vote. Yeah, I don't have to vote for three, do I? I don't vote for.
No, I just didn't know if you wanted to, are you wanting these two to be full-time?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. You want an alternate or no? You want to vote for an alternate?
At least three of us can fall in direction.
Might want to put A on there.
Who would make that?
We'll take a break after this. Okay.
We're not going to make our little talks.
Yeah.
What's your home address?
I don't know.
No, it's two. It does. Hope she gets it right.
She won't be sure this time.
No, anybody else will either. I know.
So she.
Okay, if you're ready, I'll read the results. Has been certified by our attorney as well. Fair enough. Thank you. Looking over the shoulder of our clerk. Our planning board, so let's put that up there for those at home that may be watching. The planning board does have 3 spots open. Mr. Greg Bergstrom, Ms. Lindsay Cook, and Bill McCarter are the 3 highest vote getters. So Greg Bergstrom, Lindsay Cook, and Bill McCarter will be filling those 3 spots. Board of Adjustments has 2 full-time and 1 alternate. The 2 full-time members selected highest vote getters, Sarah Murphy and Jerry Starnes, with the alternate Brandon Walker. Again, full-time, Sarah Murphy, Jerry Starnes, alternate Brandon Walker. ABC Board, 1 position open, high vote getter Susie Green. TDA, 1 position open, highest vote getter Zika Ray.
Who?
Zika Ray.
Very good.
Can I
That was about-
repeat anything?
That was about the smoothest it's ever gone.
Relatively smooth.
Y'all are afraid
And
I
we
was
all,
gonna have to vote,
everyone
weren't you?
signed.
Because I signed my ballot.
Everyone signed their ballot.
Well, I would like to, as mayor, thank all those that sent their applications in for these boards. I think it means a lot when people jump up to the plate and want to be that involved in the community. And as mayor and citizen, I want to say thank you so very much. So, thank you. Moving right along. Official reports and comments. First off, once again, I would like to thank all those applicants. Applied for the boards. If you didn't make it this year, please stick around because it's very possible it could happen next year. And, but these people, all these people and these boards through the years have done a lot of work and helped the council accomplish a lot and the town. And last but not least, I would like to thank the county commissioners. They did meet with some representatives from our town, one being myself, to discuss 24/7 transport. This was a few weeks ago. And they contacted us and they want to meet again this week, which I think is very favorable. The dialogue is good. Moving forward, I feel very positive about this. But of course, as we all know, in government, things move slow. But my thanks to Doug for all his efforts, and we'll see how this goes moving forward, and all the citizens and Shane. So that being said, I will defer to Mr. Albert.
Well, I think I am rejoicing at the collegiality of this meeting. Doesn't always occur. And I'd like to personally thank you, Mayor, for delaying us for the Valentine's celebration. We all know you forgot about it last year, and we hope that this puts you in good stead at home.
I was thinking of you, Albert. David.
I'm sorry. Want to welcome Officer Byrd and Officer Bradley. I appreciate their service, and I think we're very fortunate to have people with their experience come on our force. So thank you very much. Again, thanks to Chief Miller and the Parking Committee for all the work they've done over the last 12 months. That was a heavy lift to assemble all of that information, so thank you to them. I want to congratulate Commissioner Greening on your new chairmanship.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that and representing us.
My pleasure.
And then, certainly, lastly but not least, thank you to Manager Fox and the staff for a wonderful retreat. Kept us on track for 3 days, had lots of good information. We appreciate it. I know there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into that. So thank you to everybody.
I'm out now. David took all mine, so.
See, that's what happens when you get to sit here.
Well, I think what we ought to do, we ought to have you two switch chairs.
Start at the other end, work your way this way.
Yeah, we could
We
do
could
that,
rotate
couldn't we?
every month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might be it.
Yeah.
That'd be a good change.
Pros and cons.
I'm sorry, David.
Doug. Switch chairs.
I'd
We
just
couldn't
like to
talk
echo
secretly.
what David had said about congratulating Pete on his new appointment. Wish him a lot of luck and all that, and I'll be heading to where I'm sitting on the Board of Trustees for Risk Management. I'll be heading to, our meeting is March 1st, and we expect to set the rates for all the municipalities for their risk management insurance this meeting, so.
It could be timed, right?
Which way? You know?
Pete?
Thank you. Just a couple of updates. We had our first Economic Development Commission meeting last week. Have a very enthusiastic board of people that are serving. And David Jackson and Joe Furman are integral parts to making things happen. We talked just briefly about some of the issues, and I think we all know the issues: workforce, affordable housing, childcare, and communications. Just a small list of things that was discussed. And I'm happy to say that the next meeting is going to be here in Blowing Rock on March 16th. And it is open to the public, so any of you that are interested in what's going on, happy to have you come. Charlie will do the welcoming, and then Shane's going to talk about childcare and some things along those natures. So anyway, that's it's a big task, and it'll be interesting to see how far we get down the road, because there's, I won't say obstacles, because obstacles are always meant to be overcome. But anyway, I welcome the support from many of you in talking about issues. So please feel free to yak at me. And finally, a thanks to local resident Dave Rogers for his letter to the Watauga Board of Commissioners, and I think that was copied to the Watauga Democrat and to High Country Press. And I think I think Shane sent it to all of you, and it's really a good letter. So, thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Mr. Mosley?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Couple updates from a scheduling standpoint. I'll start by reminding everyone our planning board meeting is tomorrow night at 5:30. It's Thursday, the 16th at 5:30. We do have a special meeting I mentioned earlier on February the 28th. That's a Tuesday night at 5 p.m. to review our bids for our water meter AMI technology that we solicited bids for again, and the bank financing as well. So that's here in this room, both planning boards in this room and special meetings in this room on February the 28th, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Our next town council meeting is scheduled for March the 14th. That's a Tuesday, of course, of which we are hoping at that meeting to go over the bid results for the comprehensive plan, our PARTIF project, and then we'll discuss between now and then our Main Street project and what the timeline may look like for that, along with also setting a date for a town hall neighborhood meeting, question and answer on paid parking. Also mentioned on March the 16th at 1 p.m. at the American Legion is the EDC meeting that's open to the public. So that will be held here at the American Legion at 1 p.m. Just to kind of reiterate what Mr. Greeny said. I would also end by saying this retreat I thought was absolutely fantastic. I put in a quote in the paper, he put a quote in the paper about this being the best one ever. I thought this was a very smooth retreat. All of town staff spent weeks leading up to it in preparation of getting all the materials ready to be presented. I thought everyone did a fantastic job, very concise and efficient retreat, and the information that was presented to you all I thought was tremendous. And I say thank you to you all for taking 3 days. That is somewhat unheard of for a town or a county retreat to last 3 days, but it seems to always be filled up, and we seem to have plenty of things to speak and talk about and discuss over those 3 days. So again, thank you to the entire town staff, all the department heads that participated, whether that is through presentations, whether that's through meals and lunches and running errands and all the things that take place for those 3 days and 3 nights that we have our retreat. Again, just a thank you from me to them, and thank you to you all for being willing to take time off from work and time away from your other important duties to spend 3 full days and 3 nights discussing town business and setting the stage for us as staff to be able to move forward in 2023 and beyond. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Good? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into closed session after we take a break under
North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11.A3.
Righty, we're going to take a 10-minute pause. And thank you very much for coming out this evening. Be safe heading home.